marketing teams that are still holding themselves accountable strictly as, overall performance based on leads are behind. And there's a growing trend on making sure that revenue is the ultimate metric. But here's what I wanted to walk through this a little bit on why leads is the incorrect main metric to focus on when you're looking at marketing performance. And then 2, why I think that it's going to be a very slow trend and that marketing teams and marketers are going to continue to hide behind that metric as, a sense of promoting how well they're doing. Okay, so the easiest way to describe this is to actually go through an example. So let's go through my company, Cloud App. As a marketing team, often the main metric you're held accountable to is marketing qualified leads, or MQLs. And it's a critical stage in the funnel, right? Like, it's a stage where you feel like something's worth the sales team to follow up in. And a lot of marketing teams see that as like the handoff to sales. They're no longer, like, we don't own it anymore. Sales owns it. They need to follow up with it. So it's pretty easy to think that, that's the number you're trying to get. The problem is that it is incredibly easy to manipulate. So typically, let's go to like our pricing page here. So typically for an MQL, the easiest definition is somebody that raises their hand and says that they're ready to talk to sales, right? Like they've actually expressed their willingness to have a conversation with the sales team. So, for example, on our side, if they click this get a quote and they fill in this form here, they are ready to talk about this enterprise deal. And obviously that's very qualified, somebody that's willing to talk about that plan. Well, if I look at this, another place that we have something like this would be our demo and contact page. So like we have a contact page here. We also have this demo sign up, right? We can schedule a demo. All of these are willing, various ways of contacts saying that they're willing to have a conversation with the sales team. Okay, so let's say you are doing a great job. You deliver 1,000 MQLs in a month, right? For the sales team. So boss comes to you and says, all right, great. You need to now deliver a 10% increase. So we got to see 1,100 this next month. Pulling these numbers just out, right? So what do you do as a marketer? You start thinking about how you're going to hit that goal. Well, if you're going to make sure that you can hit that goal, you're probably going to start doing things that ensure you're going to hit it, but they're not sustainable. So let's look at this form right here, right? I've got first name, last name, work email, phone, company, and job title. If I want to make it easier to fill out this form, I take one of the form fields off. Data shows that, the easier you make the form fill, the more submissions you're going to get. I could, that would be much easier, even easier to do on like this enterprise form here, where we have this large text box, this number of employees. I could easily take this off, like our BDR team could get it. And if I were to take that off alone, then conversion rates would certainly jump up. And I'd hit my number. Well, what happens when the next month comes around and they congratulate you, everybody gives you a pat on the back? What do? Like, you can't keep taking form fields off. Another thing that I've seen a lot of marketing teams, and as I've had conversations and worked and whatever, another easy way to manipulate it is just redefining what a marketing qualified lead is, right? Like, there's some companies out there that say their webinars are marketing qualified. Some folks say that essentially any marketing source lead, an ebook download, counts. Some even say, like, okay, we've got contacts in the database. They haven't even filled out a form. Like, we know who they are. Maybe they filled out a blog subscription or something. They visit the pricing page, and they saw 2 or 3 different, high-value pages. Sometimes the definition of a marketing qualified lead gets super ambiguous, and all you have to do is change the parameters and you'll get the number. So it is so easy to manipulate the process. And what happens, not even, I'm all about conversion rate optimization and, spending time on the transactional level. But here's the problem, is that when when the transactional element is the focus of reaching a new goal, you're not doing anything that's actually demand driven or customer centric. You're just transaction focused, and so the only thing you're trying to do is change an element of the process from A to B. You're not actually doing things that increase business results. And that's where I have beef with holding marketing teams to MQL numbers as their main driver for performance. So what should they do? It's quite so two things. That's why it's easy to manipulate. So the second, why I don't think this trend is going to be a fast-moving one, and that marketing teams will be they'll want to hide behind it. Well, let's say that they keep their MQL definition simple, which I think everybody should do. They should keep it to a form fill where somebody is ready to talk to sales. This form submission right here is really easy to measure, right? Somebody fills out a form, it counts. Measuring something like pipeline driven from something like this, or driven from some marketing source, excuse me, is a lot harder. And it's harder because we overcomplicate it. So when you start getting into marketing attribution and you want to tie closed won deals or even early stage pipeline to some marketing initiative, well, the fact of the matter is, especially in big, let me make this bigger for a second, in big, longer sales cycles organizations, it gets really complex. You might have somebody that, they find out about you about word of mouth, then they go to search, they look at your company, they come to the website, they say, oh, that's interesting, then they leave, then they come back, they sign up for a webinar, they see the webinar, they're like, oh, that's nice, they still don't do anything, they come back for an ebook later, then eventually they talk to another person with word of mouth, that gets them to sign up or eventually purchase, right? Well, there's 4 or 5 campaigns and touch points that now you're trying to attribute revenue to, and it gets really, really complex, and marketers overthink this, and they feel like they've got to come up with some kind of crazy W-shaped model where things are attributed differently, and it just gets a mess. And so what happens is they might, in goodwill, try and start measuring revenue and attributing marketing campaigns to it, but it becomes meaningless because it's too convoluted, it's too complex. So what do? They give up, and they come back to what's easy to measure, the MQL stuff, and then that's why they get stuck there. So if you can, within your own business, figure out how to simplify how you've defined MQL and keep it consistent so you don't manipulate it ever, right? You might add extra forms in different places as your site grows, ways to contact the sales team, but it's always that. So raising a hand to talk to sales. And then if you come up with really simple attribution models, first touch, the touch right before an opportunity is created. If you've got a long, complex sales cycle, you might be able to even do look at last touch. And then you take those with a grain of salt, you keep them simple, and then they're not end-all be-all numbers, but they give you an idea of the impact you're making. Then you can actually start doing things. You'll start to see trends. You'll start to see what percentage of marketing influence deals have an original lead source of webinar or a paid ad or whatever it is. The trends are going to start coming, and then you're going to start doing marketing things, branding things, generating real demand that then, you're not just manipulating a form, but you're bringing more of the right people in to raise their hand to talk to sales. So That's my little rant on MQLs and leads and revenue attribution. And it's going to be a trend that I think is slowly coming, over the next 5-6 years. And it's going to be slow. It's not going to be a fast one.